monthly meeting of the Planning Board of the town of Westborough. I'm Hazel Nurse, the chairman of the board. To my far left is Jenny Gingrich, who is our town planner, Christina Kelleher, John Pizzoni, John Gelsich, and our admin, Dick Bolito. Did I pronounce that right? Dirk. Yeah. Sort of. Okay. As you will note, there are only 4 members of the planning board here, and I want to point out that we have a vacancy, and we are looking for any interested citizen who would like to participate in this board. I think they'd find it very worthwhile. You don't need planning experience. What you need is an interest in the town and what we're doing, and would be willing to spend some time doing that. Based on this, applications and a letter of interest are due by 5 p.m. on May 5th. And we will have a meeting on this, a joint meeting with the Board of Select on Monday, May 12th at 6 o'clock to interview the candidates at that time. All right, our first thing on our agenda tonight is 220 Turnpike Road. Applicant is Everrise. The notice is as follows. Pursuant to the rules and regulations relative to site plan review under Article 3 of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough, the Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 15th at 6:30 p.m. on application record number 25-00701, requesting a full site plan review for a plan to construct 3 commercial buildings. The location of the proposed project is 220 Turnpike Road, located in the Highway Business Zoning District. The legal notice was published on March 28, 2025, and April 4th, 2025 in the Community Advocate. I'm going to ask the applicant to give a presentation on this. I will then ask Jenny to give us some information on comments that have been received from the various departments of the town. There are studies and information which we have not received yet, so I don't expect we will be making a decision tonight. And after Jenny's comments, then I'll take any comments from the board and finally open it to any comments from the public on this application. All right, you ready, Mr. McCarty? And if you would introduce yourself to the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering, here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Jim Ball is here with me, who's the owner applicant, and then sitting next to him is Mark Johnson, who's the owner applicant for the abutting property at 161 Milk Street that's currently under development. So thank you very much for having us in this evening. As you just read, we're here tonight to seek site plan approval from the planning board for the project at 220 Turnpike Road. On the screen is a graphic of our proposed site plan. So along the top of the page here is Route 9. Bottom of the page is Mr. Johnson's project at 161 Milk Street that's currently under construction. That includes the renovation of the existing building into a self-storage facility. And then in this area here is where his new building is being built for his company, MA Restoration. The board did see this portion of the parcel when Mr. Johnson and his team came through for permitting. At that time, they just showed the extension of a common driveway, not a common driveway by definition, but a shared driveway from the 161 Milk Street property through the 220 Turnpike property out to Route 9. As part of his project, Mr. Johnson did retain ownership of a finger of land that comes up and to the sideline of Route 9 so that he had frontage on Route 9, which would allow him to have a sign for his businesses both at Route 9 and down at Milk Street.
Could you point that out on the plan?
Yep, that's here where I'm moving my cursor
I'm sorry,
around.
it didn't show up at my...
So this kind of P-shaped piece here is the piece that Mr. Johnson retained as part of his 161 Milk Street property. The piece that Mr. Ball has purchased is here. Oh, certainly, sorry about that. Yeah, certainly. So the subject parcel is here. So this is the A&R plan that's already been endorsed and recorded. This property line comes up, jogs over, hits the sideline of Route 9, and then closes back down. We are proposing eventually a further subdivision of that, also by A&R, but we elected to do that hopefully post-planning board approval in case there's any modifications to the design, shifting of buildings. We didn't want to record new property lines until that process was complete. So we're proposing 3 new buildings, 2 7,400 square foot office buildings. One's here closer to Route 9, a mirror image of that building here in the center of the site, and then an accessory garage building here at the bottom of the site. The intention would be to build the middle building and the accessory garage building as part of the first phase. Also, as part of the first phase, the road would be constructed all the way through and out to Route 9. All of the parking would be constructed. All the utilities would be extended up from Milk Street through the site, water, sewer, potentially gas and electric. And then all the landscaping improvements would be installed. Am I being loud enough? Okay, I was just checking. Fortunately, as part of Mr. Johnson's project, they did file with Mass DOT for an access permit onto Route 9 and went through that process. And so what we're showing here on our plan is the entrance that was approved by MassDOT. So it would be new curbing in off of Route 9 for a right-hand turn in, new curbing out to Route 9 for a right-hand turn out going eastbound, and then a raised curbed center island with associated striping, so it was clear to direct traffic both in and out onto Route 9 eastbound. We do have wetlands on the site. There's an isolated vegetated wetland that's here, and then bordering vegetated wetlands on the easterly side. We did file a notice of intent with Conservation Commission. We had our initial meeting with them last week to present the project to them. As part of both the planning and conservation process, the plans were sent out to a third-party peer review engineer who's going to check our stormwater calculations, our conformance with the site plan regulations and the zoning regulations of the town. They are also looking at stormwater for conservation, and they're looking at the wetland replication area plantings. Back when this was owned by Fafford Development, if you look back at historic aerial photos from the 80s, this entire site was cleared and scraped of topsoil, and it was graded in preparation for a large, commercial strip center that was never constructed. So although this is a wetland, if you look at it, it certainly doesn't look like your typical wetland. It looks kind of like a scrub forest. So as part of our application with Conservation Commission, we're proposing to fill a piece of that wetland here to replicate new wetlands and also to do plantings within the core of the existing wetland to kind of beef that up so it looks more like a wetland. So we're going through that process with them. So as the chair mentioned, we've yet to receive comments from the peer review engineer or from any town departments for that matter. So we certainly were of the same opinion that tonight would be a continuance. We're here tonight to receive any feedback from you and the abutters so that hopefully once we receive the comments, we can incorporate everything into one full revised set of plans that hopefully both your board and the commission would support. Prior to, I'm not quite sure on the timeline, but I know that the Bewalt Trail easement, which is a little bit hard to see on this plan, it basically follows our back of curb line easterly to our property line. So this strip on the easterly portion of the site has the Bewalt Trail easement on it already. And so that would be something that would be constructed by the town if and when we get through that process townwide for designing and permitting and funding the Bewalt Trail construction. So you'll notice that we don't have much landscaping proposed along that side, and it's for that reason. We didn't want to go crazy landscaping that slope that would then be dug up to construct the trail. The rest of the site, you can see we've got some nice proposed trees down here, smaller landscaping in the islands, foundation plantings all around the entrances to the building, and also some screening where we have outdoor patios that face each other on the two buildings. We are in discussions with the engineering division about the sewer allocation. We understand that warrant article passed, but it's yet to be ratified. And speaking to Ms. Elaine in the engineering department, it's going to be a first come, first serve basis on getting allocations for new projects. So we have prepared our site plans with the hope and intention of connecting to town sewer. And hopefully that develops here in the next 30 to 45 days while we go through this permitting process. We do have a series of underground infiltration basins. We went out and dug a total of 15 test pits that were witnessed by Steve Bakari from the engineering division. So he was there to confirm what my engineers were seeing as far as soils and depth to groundwater so that we could use that to design. So everything is being infiltrated into the soils, and then there is an overflow that connects to the existing drainage line that comes down through Mr. Johnson's site and down to Milk Street. There is a continuous easement on both properties for both access and utilities in from Milk Street to the property line, and then from our property line across and out to Route 9, so that both entities have the right to pass and repass over each other's property and the right to make utility connections. As part of the one-stop meeting, we did meet with all the department heads. Fire, of course, was concerned about apparatus access, but he's got a clear path in from Milk all the way out to Route 9, and we do have a hydrant proposed that's in between the two buildings, so God forbid if they need it, it's there for them. We are showing EV parking spots for both buildings, and actually Jim and his CFO, Jim McDermott, would make use of those with their EVs, so it is a little self-serving, but it's also in line with the town's regulations. The rest of the area would be, this light green color would be, graded and loomed and seeded and lawn area. And we're proposing a split rail fence along the proposed tree line so that no further encroachment into the wetlands would occur beyond what we're currently permitting with the Conservation Commission. They wanted to see either a fence or a row of boulders, and we elected to go with the fence. Building construction would be, structural steel, metal stud walls with 4 different types of architectural panels on them. Some would be wood look, some would be stone look, some would be brick look, and some would be granite look. Jesse from Dixon Salo Architects is currently preparing the building drawings, but we do have renderings of the building of how it will look, and it's very sharp and modern office building. So I think I touched on the points that I'd like to hit on. I'd be happy to have any questions from the board or from the general public that's interested.
Okay, thank you very much. Jenny, could you just give us a synopsis of comments from the town departments where there have been?
Yes, so this went to the select board last week for comments. Their comment was the use of a single sign installation on Route 9 that lists all businesses on the parcel instead of multiple signs would be preferred to minimize the visual clutter. The building commissioner did comment to mark the locations for EV charging stations and add a note stating the percentage of EV spaces to the overall parking spaces. Conservation just mentioned that a partial certificate of compliance to the orders recently issued for the development at 161 Milk Street is required, as well as a new notice of intent, which the applicant is going through right now. And I believe had their first meeting with the commission on April 8th. The fire department did make comments, but there was an issue in the system. We weren't able to open them, so we need to follow up with them. The Board of Health commented that all dust and debris shall be kept on site. No dust shall encroach onto public roads. And they suggested keeping a water truck on site and trash must be secured. And then Active Transportation and Safety Committee didn't submit formal comments yet. They had a meeting yesterday, and they'll provide comments at before the next meeting, I believe. And then I will just note that this did go out to peer review, so we are waiting for the peer review comments to be submitted as well. Once those are submitted, we'll receive any other additional comments from engineering.
Thank you, Jenny. If I could just expand on the selectmen discussion. So when we went last week to present the project to the selectmen, we did mention that the town now has this new regulation enacted where you can request a special permit to share signs, essentially. So rather than Mr. Johnson having a sign right here for his MA restoration and self-storage, and Mr. Ball having a sign right here for his businesses, we are talking with a sign company to see if we can come up with a design that incorporates everybody into one that's attractive. And we would have a similar one down on Milk Street. And, once we kind of flush that out, we'd likely be requesting that special permit. It just, would likely make sense to have one electric feed, and, but we're still flushing out the signage details of that. And then the rest, pretty straightforward.
Okay, you're aware of those. All right, questions from the board?
My only question is that I'm trying to understand quite how this fits with, did you say we're taking down a building?
No,
No.
So this is the project from when they came in for mass restoration.
Yep,
They're doing storage, mass
And then
restoration.
right here, right?
Yeah, right up there.
okay. Okay, no, I don't have questions. I was just trying to figure out how to
Oh, yeah,
how to
sorry.
visualize it. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I just one question on, can you talk more about the storage building and what the plans would be for that, the 3,000 square feet?
yeah, it would be a personal storage from Mr. Ball and his team, boat, vehicle, files,
Okay.
that kind of stuff, not rented to a third party. It would be just used for them.
John?
Couple questions, yeah. So the island on Route 9
Yes,
does not look like it's landscaped. Is that a
Correct.
MassDOT thing?
yep.
Can't even do like low plantings?
I believe it's concrete. Mark, can you elaborate on
They
that?
won't let you do anything?
I looked at the plans, and forgive me, it's been a little while since I looked at them, but my recollection is it's slope granite edging with concrete. And they also have a requirement that we mount signage on the Jersey barrier, obviously no left turn, that kind of stuff. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's their
If it's MassDOT saying
jurisdiction.
that,
And
yeah.
what we found on other projects lately is unless it's specifically in the MassDOT manual, nobody will deviate. There's no conversations. It's no, my MassDOT manual says you have to do this, do that. And some of it honestly is head scratching, but that's how, on another project I'm doing, we're taking out a drain line
Yeah.
to reroute it, and they made us video the line that's coming out of the ground, because it said you're supposed to video drain lines in the manual. And we said, it's coming out of the ground. And they said, we don't care. It's in the manual. So
That's frustrating. I mean,
those are the disappointing discussions that are going on right now.
It's frustrating. I would like to see some landscaping on there.
I know when we were,
Sorry, Jim, can you just
Jim,
come
do
up
you
to
want
the
to come up
microphone?
and introduce yourself?
yeah, Jim, one quick comment on that. I know when we were discussing it, they talked about people don't trim down the vegetation. That was their experience in the past, and so it interferes with the line of sight. So they just decided not to allow it for anybody.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
All right, yeah, it is what it is. And this might not really be the jurisdiction of this permit, but is the office use, is there a tenant identified, or is it going to be on spec?
No, it's for Jim's business. He's.
For you, so
Yes.
both buildings are for you? Okay, all right, good. Because I was a little concerned with the office market right now and building them on spec, but.
It's a great market.
This proposal brings a few more concerns with the access to Milk Street and going westbound for employees than the storage facility, because there's going to be more employees. So I can see it easily, people coming from the west, get on Route 9, get off there, go to work. And then when they go home, they're going to have to go back onto Milk Street, but there's that weird intersection. Have
Yes.
we contemplated that as to how we're going to make that work? Because I mean, if there's going to be more traffic going through that intersection, that can be problematic. With the storage facility, if there's a couple people throughout the day, it's not going to.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mark has a number of employees. I mean, we have 12 to 15 people in the office, and we actually have a hybrid schedule, so not everyone's there every day. So it's a relatively low number, John. I would say half those people are going to be heading east, so relatively it's a small number. We have expansion room for up to 30, 50 new jobs in this space over the next 10 years. And so I know when we looked at this, MassDOT said we can't do anything. That whole intersection is MassDOT property. Yeah. We talked about this with Mark, like we can't do anything about it. We'll obviously educate people to be thoughtful and careful and don't go the wrong way, but they wouldn't even let us put signage out there.
Okay, yeah, and I guess the traffic study will also look at that and kind of give us some idea as to what that's going to do. But I just a little bit more trips than the storage facility. So yeah, something we need to think about. That's all I had.
Yeah, we're currently requesting a waiver for a new traffic study because we felt that it was vetted out with MassDOT on both ends, and then we're such a low generator, as Jim said. The ITE manual even says if you're less than 100 trips per day, then a traffic study is not warranted. So, if we're at 15 people at opening, even at 4 trips a day, we don't get to 100.
That's fine if that's, how many employees you have. It's just with the parking, it seemed like there's a little bit more. So I just wanted to address that.
The traffic study also used the maximum available space on the lot. We did that on purpose, which was, I think, 30,000 square feet. Okay. We're building a third of that. Okay. So the traffic study was, at the time, since we hadn't specifically designed this, they took the maximum available. The engineer designed, here's the maximum size building and the maximum number of people you could put. That was what was done in the prior traffic study with Mark's permit, just for your information. So we'll have significantly less than that.
I just had a couple of questions. One was, I don't know, I assume you've got an enclosure or something where you're going to put trash.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just hadn't seen it on the plans. I don't know if there's to be on these plans or later plans, but I didn't see any provision for that. And I was just also, I always think about snow removal. So those are 2 questions there.
Yes. Yep. Snow removal in the short term obviously won't be an issue because the B-wall's not there. And so, plowing is going to want to take everything away from the building to that curb line. We're also parking per zoning. So, this calls for 58 spaces per zoning. 53 spaces per zoning. We're showing 58. So we're parked well in excess of what we need. So in large snow events, not that that seems to happen much in Massachusetts anymore, but we still need to plan for it. So large snow events, we could use up some spaces and still not affect the operation of the building. But I'll note both on the revised plan set that we'll be preparing once we get peer review comments back.
Okay. And trash, I assume.
Yes,
you put on.
yep, that's what I meant by both, yes.
Right, okay.
So can I just jump in
Yep.
on one of the things you said? So you by zoning, you need 53 spaces, but you're providing 58.
Correct.
Do you need for the use 58? Can you reduce?
15.
Can you reduce that back to 53 so that we're not putting more impervious surface on the site?
Well, I mean, this is all an existing roadway now. It's obviously a crumbled existing roadway. So we can have a conversation about that, Patrick.
Yeah, it's always a balancing act, right? And as you referenced, the office market is soft, right? And so one thing that tenants always ask is, well, what do I have for parking, right? We want to be as flexible as we can, that if, something happens and Jim decides not to use the second building, that he's not hindering himself from leasing it to a good quality tenant. So, it is a balancing act between number of spaces.
So what would the maximum number of employees be for a building that's 7,500 square feet, generally? Order of magnitude.
The way we have it built out for 10-year max expansion would be 30.
30
right?
people.
30 in each building.
30 in each building.
In each
Correct.
building.
Okay, so, yeah.
That's why we had the 58, John,
Got it.
just
Right, okay.
in case.
That makes sense.
All right.
All right. My one other question, which I always worry about, is that if you were unable to get sewer through the town, are you prepared to move forward? And is there space on the property to put your own sewer in?
We'll have to do septic, Hazel, yes.
Okay, all right.
And that would honestly affect what could be built, because between the offsets to the stormwater, underground stormwater, and the wetlands,
Right,
it would affect at least the size of a building, if not one whole building. Fortunately, office use is a pretty low generator. It's 75 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet, so we're looking at 562.5 gallons per day per building. So at full build-out, we would need, 1,100 and change, 1,130. So we're hoping, again, that the warrant article gets ratified and that either the select board or the engineering department comes up with a process to getting those allocations. Because we have 2 other projects coming up in Westborough, both good quality projects, and everybody's asking the same question. Well, what about the sewer?
yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no concrete answer yet. We've made
Hopefully,
good progress. but-
Hopefully, there'll be some shortly.
Yeah.
I think we're all looking for it because it hamstrings the planning board also as much as anything else, or any developer who wishes to do anything in this town until they get some firm commitment one way or another as far as the sewers go.
Yeah, septic's an option, right? But I have a client now that's trying to site a car dealership. Septics and car dealerships don't mix well together. They do on the showroom side and the business office side where it's just regular waste, but then when you have 30, 40 service bays that need floor drains, well, those can't go to a septic. So they would have to go to a tight tank. And then, you have the tight tank and the alarm, and the cost of pumping that once a quarter, it's a real number. So it's a hindrance to potential development. So it's great that the town's made the momentum so far, and hopefully it continues through here and we can start getting some sewer allocations.
Yeah, no, I think it would help us all.
Yep.
As far as that goes. Are there any other questions from any of the board members? Christina? have you
Yeah,
got
just a
question?
clarifying question. So you're at 15 now, you're forecasting for up to 30, and that's one building, but.
That's one building.
That's one building,
Yeah,
but you're
over
not.
10 years, Christina.
Okay, but you're not planning on renting the,
We're not building the second, for now, my brother and I are keeping the second building if the company grows that fast. And, I mean, that's a 20-year project.
Sure.
Probably. For now, we don't need to sell it. We don't need the income. So for the moment, we're keeping it potentially for our own future use.
gotcha.
But the layout in the existing building, we did a lot of strategic planning, as you'd imagine, is designed we expect to last us 10 years as in the
Okay.
first building.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
So to follow that up, so when this project's complete, that area closest to Route 9 would just be graded flat and loomed and seeded and maintained as lawn as a pad-ready site. We're going to stub the utilities in, so minimal impact in the future when Jim decides to move forward with that building.
Okay, great, thank you.
Right. If there are no other questions, board, I'll open this to any comments from the public on this project at 220 Route 9. Yes, sir? You have a comment?
Yes, I mean, a couple of questions, right?
Wait,
Sorry.
Jim, if you want to,
Step back. Or,
both those working?
Yeah, so my
Would
name's,
you please give your name?
yeah, so it's Raj Patel. So I own a house on the Park Street.
All right, could you spell that for our, could you spell your last name, please?
It's Patil, Patil.
Thank you.
Your address.
22 Park Street. Yeah. So I guess the first question is, what's the floor height of the
Single story.
buildings? It's a single story. Okay. And I know you said that it's an office building, so do you expect any heavy vehicles or things like that that would be coming?
Other
Except for
than-
constructions,
yeah,
of course.
after-
but-
No.
Not for
Just
the-
employee vehicles.
Okay, okay. Okay, and I'm assuming there'll be some study on the wetlands and stuff like that would
Correct.
be done, right?
And we'll have some more detailed plans at the next open hearing, which will be, our next meeting is the
May 6th.
1st of May.
May 6th, I think?
May 6th is our next meeting.
Okay. I mean, the reason is because my house is, right across that, right? Just the wetland in between that, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can comment on the water is not going that way from this project. The water is
Correct.
going down to Milk Street. It will not, it is being directed away.
Yeah,
from
most of
Milk
it's actually going straight down into the ground. We have, on the drainage sheet, and you could kind of see it on this plan, they're the light gray. I lost my cursor.
Street. Over on the right there, Patrick.
Just for the residents' knowledge, this is also going through the Conservation Commission for wetlands. So that's a whole separate hearing process if you want to get more involved in that.
All here underneath the parking lot, that you could see little gray rectangles. That's all a subsurface infiltration system.
Oh,
And then there's another one down here and another one over here. So there's 4 total that are picking up the rooftop and the sidewalk and the pavement runoff and infiltrating that. And there's only there's only an overflow down through the existing drainage network for large storm events, but most of it will recharge into the ground.
Okay.
And that's one of the items that the town's peer review engineer will be checking to make sure that our math is correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to comment on this project? If not, I think.
I got one.
Oh, sure.
What's the slope of the berm where the B-wall would be?
Bad. It's not the ideal location to build a trail. I think, my honest opinion is it's going to require a retaining wall on our side to hold the parking lot up, and a retaining wall on the low side because it's a severe grade, and to create that flat spot, it's gonna, decent piece of work to put that trail together there.
I mean, Jenny, is there any way we can reroute that? Because that just seems like it's an unnecessary cost for us to.
Well, we have the preliminary design plans, the 25% design plans through there. So
Does it show the retaining walls?
I don't remember on this spot specifically if
Yeah,
it shows
it's-
the retaining walls, but they did evaluate the area.
Did thorough walkthroughs there with the whole B-wall team.
Yeah, it
Town
is
engineer,
steep.
The town engineer,
There'll need to be some grading done.
I mean, if there was a way to reroute it, can we go through the front of the site? Is that, I'm just thinking, if we don't have to go through all that construction with the berm and everything.
Well, probably when we get to we aren't near working on that section yet. I mean, that's, I
No,
think,
this is section 2.
yeah, a ways away.
No, this is the one we're working on.
Yeah.
Section 2 with the, I would have to
I'm
look at
sorry.
the plans.
I would just say it's probably something worth looking into.
I will say that there's been tens of thousands of dollars in legal and engineering costs put into putting it where it is already on our part.
Yeah.
And plus giving you the land, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I don't know that, I mean, to Jen's point, there was very thorough thought and detail put in many sections. Obviously, there's not an ideal, perfect, easy solution. But I think that this was thoroughly thought through. It was originally at the bottom, right by the wetlands, which was very steep. And so we agreed to bring it up to the flat. And I think, Jen, if I recall, that made it a lot less work. And it kept it a lot further, it created a much higher buffer from the wetlands too. So I think this was as ideal as they could get to. And I know it was thought through a great deal.
Yeah, way back in the beginning of this process, when we were just initially looking at concepts and wetlands, I brought up that same discussion. Mine was more geared to the low quality of the wetland on the western portion of the site and whether we could fill it entirely and then slide Jim's whole project back and move the B-wall even further west to an easier section to construct. But as Jim had mentioned, it was kind of set in stone at that point of the discussion, and a lot of time and effort and energy on both the town side and Jim's side and Mark's side and Waterman, who was handling it at the time. Everybody had exhausted all those options, and this is where it's now established.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, could I have a motion then to continue the hearing?
So moved to May 6th.
To May 6th? Will we have most of our information by then, Jenny, do you think?
Yeah, we'll have the peer review back. It might be this week, actually.
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, this matter is continued until the 6th of May.
Excellent. Thank you all very much.
I might not be here on May 6th. We have town meeting starting the day before.
That's the week that you have town.
Shouldn't matter,
Okay,
but
all right.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to see you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is the letter of support for the community planning grants.
excuse me, if you guys have questions, can you go talk outside, please?
Yeah, they're going.
So the planning department is planning on being involved in 2 different grants, and I'll talk about the first one about the Route 9 corridor study, and then Kristen Belanger will come up and talk about the active transportation plan grant. So,
Microphone up a little bit.
Yeah, Jenny, we need to hear you better. Okay.
is that better? Okay. So in collaboration with the Community Development Department, planning is working on a grant, also in collaboration with Northborough and Southborough, to hire a consultant to do a Route 9 corridor study. This was initiated by Southborough. They had approached us. They have issues, just like many of the towns along Route 9, with commercial vacancy rates. They have other issues too, including, sewer and wastewater capacity, things like that. But in talking with them and different representatives from the state, we felt it would be a good project to apply for a Route 9 corridor study to look at the challenges that exist, including the high commercial vacancy rate, and then give recommendations for how we can generate redevelopment, including zoning updates, roadway and transportation improvements, things like that. So there'll be, if we get the grant, we would hire a consultant to do this analysis of the employment, the demographics, things like that, and then provide a report. This was also a recommendation in our master plan.
Great.
And how much money are you looking for?
150,000
With
Just
no
for Westborough?
matching?
for all
All
three
three.
towns,
So, and,
all together.
so 150 is split between the 3 towns?
Right. So the consultant would do a regional report
Right.
that would cover all of the towns together.
Okay.
And is it from the border of Southborough, the far east border of Southborough to the far west border of Northborough?
Anything that touches Route 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're just looking,
How much of Northborough's on Route 9?
I don't,
Isn't it like just like a,
Not very much.
Not a very small
there's
amount.
not.
Insignificant.
Sort of from the.
They
where
still
the
have
gas station
businesses
is,
and, yeah.
just beyond,
Yeah, that's right,
up to
yeah.
Shrewsbury
That's right.
line. So it's just that one little section. Yeah.
So we're just looking for the planning board's support.
Do we want to
submit
take
an
a
application.
vote on each letter or both letters together?
Let's do them individually because they're individually on our agenda, aren't they?
No.
Oh, they're not? Okay. So it's 2 letters, but it's for the same project.
No, different. This one is just for the Route 9 corridor study, and then the other one is applying for a grant to do the active transportation plan just for Westborough.
So I move that the board authorize Hazel to sign a letter of support to be drafted for the Route 9 corridor study grant application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Second one, Jenny?
Yep, Kristen's actually going to talk about this one.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Can join us.
Hello, I'm Kristen Belanger, Assistant Town Planner. We are planning to submit an application for a grant with the One Stop for Growth Community Planning to do an active transportation plan. A plan of this nature would be comprehensive. It would identify critical areas for improvement in our existing and proposed walkways and bikeways, gaps in connectivity, public engagement to gather views, and subsequent prioritization of project segments based on our local goals. So that would be the focus of this plan. We kind of know we have a lot of different projects going on. They're a little bit disjointed. We just want to get everything in one place to understand what we're looking at and then be able to prioritize from there. So
And what
we're
is the
asking for
cost of
support.
this one? What is the cost of this one?
Around, depending on how much engagement you have, that drives the price up a little bit more, which I believe we need a lot of public engagement. So between 100 and 120,000.
Is what the grant is for, or is that what the match is for?
That is the grant.
Is there a match?
We are not providing a match.
Even like in-kind, staff time?
They don't allow for in-kind matches through this program.
You talked about gaps in connectivities. It's going to look at sidewalks and the sidewalk network as well?
Correct. Sidewalks, crosswalks, bikeways, lanes, all of those things. Anything active transportation related.
How does the safe routes to schools work, connect to this, I guess, or is pulled in or considered, or?
Those are like on my list, like I have a list of items that would be provided. And Safe Routes to School is programming, so figuring out how that strategies fit in from those programs according to our plan. So, incorporating state.
Do you mean the Fisher Street project, though? Are you talking about that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just, since
General.
it's like, it seems like a similar, it's not quite the same, but a similar sort of activity, just how they can work together, I guess.
Yeah, so the Safe Routes to School project, the one we have going on Fisher Street, is a specific project that came about from the town, but this would be taking a more comprehensive look at the town as a whole, but including those projects. Like, it would most likely reference, these are the projects happening right now or in the pipeline, but here are other recommendations on how to connect
Got it.
them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen?
Yeah, I just have one. So how would it help identify zoning amendments and design standards? I'm just kind of confused.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but I know from experience in Hopkinton, like with site plan standards, if you have frontage along a road, you have to put a sidewalk in, right? And so you change the zoning to require sidewalks along new developments, and then you can have those basically paid for by the developers and then connect. They can fill in gaps and they connect in to different networks and create new networks. So, I mean, that's just one example. I'm sure there's others, but that's one that I've seen in Hopkinton.
And does it have to be where the development is, or can they help connect certain other areas of town that are?
I mean, that's possible. In Hopkinton, it's just you have to have sidewalks along your frontage.
Yeah.
I'm sure if somebody was like, well, we don't really need sidewalks in front of our building, but we're happy to pay for sidewalks around here, I'm sure the planning board would say, okay, but that hasn't come up yet.
Okay.
Isn't that in discussion, actually, with the development on, not Computer Drive, but I guess isn't that I think we are doing that.
Oh, the
Are you
Sonesta?
25 Connector Road? Is that the one?
Might be.
Yeah, they
one I
provide, because they couldn't,
Because it does, to your point, like, doesn't make sense there.
right, it
Yeah.
didn't make sense to put a sidewalk right there, but they contributed
Right.
funding to do the design at the Flanders Street East Main light, potential light.
Right.
And
Okay.
we talked about a possibility of, maybe sometimes they could there is flat ground above there, so that there was a thought that there might be a way to connect by going off the street itself.
Right.
And up above. So there was some discussion about that, whether it would be feasible or when it will be feasible, who knows?
Right.
But at least it was something we were looking at as an alternative, because on the street there is just impossible. to
Right.
deal with.
Right, yeah. And then just to John's question about the zoning and the regulations, so in our regulations now, we kind of stole it from Hopkinton about the sidewalk requirement recently, but then other zoning things that we're looking at would be like for downtown, you could have a public amenity trade-off where if you're providing a new sidewalk or you're putting a bike rack or something in the front of your property, you could get a benefit in exchange for that, for your development. So those are just examples of little things that they could recommend.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, could I have a motion to support this letter?
I move that the planning board authorize Hazel to sign a letter of support for the One Stop for Growth application for the active transportation plan on our behalf.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Open State Preservation Committee Planning Board representative. Mark was our representative, and obviously we need a new one. Now, we've got a couple of options on this. One is to wait and see till we get a new member, or if someone else has the time or the interest that's presently on the board that would like to sit on that committee, they may do so. And I'd be glad to have them.
I mean, I'm an at-large member for that, so.
Right, would you like to stay at the?
So I actually reapplied like a month ago.
Okay.
So I don't even know if that's gone before the select board to
Oh,
appoint me. So
okay.
I could talk to Sela and say, you know, if it hasn't gone, I can withdraw my application and then I'm not in that seat anymore. And then I can
Be the official member.
be the planning board rep.
Yeah, which
if that's what the board wants.
obviously makes sense. Okay, yeah, if you want to check with Celia on that. Yeah, because I did notice when I was looking at the, when I was actually trying to find the printout on a new member for the planning board, and I looked at the list of vacancies and stuff, and it was not up to date, but that sort of was the way I read that. I think they have trouble keeping the town website up to date for various things, is what I've noticed. That was one of them. Okay, John, if you would do that, then, and if you're all in agreement, I think John would obviously be the good representative to the planning board for us, to the Open Space Committee. So if you want to check on that and let us know, and if it's okay, then we can vote you next week. Or is it the Board of Select that? No, this will be the planning board, so we can designate, it's just a designation of member.
Yeah, you would just designate a
Okay, we could
member.
do that next month.
Here, I think, next time, right? The next time is May 6th.
Yeah, you can still
Yeah.
appoint me in my absence. I'm okay with that.
Okay, that should be fine then. All right, Jenny, do you have any updates?
Yes, so on April 8th, so last week, the town manager and I gave a presentation about the B-wall updates to the select board. So if you didn't get a chance to view that meeting, it's available on Westborough TV. But just a couple of things we talked about were a potential alternate route around the solar field where the wastewater treatment plant is. And so we're looking into whether we can get additional funding, or I'm sorry, we are asking GM2, our consultant, for a quote to see if we would be able to cover that under what we have existing to look at the alternate. But most likely, we do not have that funding, so we would figure out how to incorporate it into the Mass Trails grant that we applied for if we get it. And then looking at the alternative for Meadow Road, we are planned to have a public meeting in late spring, early summer to show the alternatives to the public and also show the landscaping plan. So if you would like more information, You can watch the the select board meeting presentation that was on April 8th. But basically, that was what was discussed. The other item to update you all on is the downtown plan. We're going to have a public information meeting on June 11th at 6 p.m. in the great hall in this building. We just updated the website yesterday to include information on what the downtown plan is for the public, so we'll be sharing that out on social media this week. And we have flyers being printed right now that we're going to be distributing to the local businesses and residents in the area, and then also dropping them off at the places like the library, senior center, et cetera.
And we finally had some responses to the questionnaire.
Oh, for the wayfinding and branding? Yes.
I kind of look at these two projects somewhat together.
Yeah, I got to
The
keep
fact
them
that they're-
separate in my brain.
Right.
Yes, so we did get some more responses on that. I believe there are almost a little over 100, a little under 100 responses, so that was really good. We'd always like to see more, of course. But the next step will be to look at the locations of where the signage will go to direct people to the different places in town. So more information to come on that. And then we also hired a consultant, Emily Ines, to look at our downtown sign bylaw. And so we haven't had our first kickoff meeting, but we should be having that late April, maybe the first week of May. And once that's done, I'll update the board on the progress with that. And then I'm working on the downtown zoning updates also. So I don't have information yet, but I'll have some information to share at the next meeting.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Kristen might have something
Okay.
else.
Kristen, have you got something?
Just pass those down. So Jenny and I attended the Environmental Action Fair a couple weekends ago. And we had a good time. We got a lot of input. We had a booth there, and the purpose of our booth was to ask some questions as far as how people are getting places. So the first board had, how do you currently travel places? How do you get to work and school? How do you go to places for play? How do you get to store, like everyday errands, those types of things? And we had, your choices were car, bike, or walk. And we knew overall the answer was going to be car. And then the next board we had asked the question, well, why did you choose the mode that you chose? If you chose a car, why? If you chose to bike, why? If you chose to walk, why? To figure out what motivates people to travel the way they do. And then the final board was, what would it take to convince you to change to walking or biking? Maybe it's safety features, maybe it's, location, et cetera. So these charts kind of point that out. It's interesting to see why people chose to do the things they did. And on the last page, it shows you the items that they would use if we had them. I think another important aspect that I kind of took out of it, lots of times when you ask people, why did you take your car? They'll say, it was too far, is a common answer. And I think a lot of people think it's all or nothing. So you might never be able to walk or ride your bike to work because you're always going to work too far away. But it's changing your mindset that it doesn't have to be every trip. It's just, can you change one trip out of your day to go to the convenience store or to go to the library? That one change makes a difference over time for all of us. So one of the things, to think about. So I thought it was valuable. I just thought I wanted to share that with you. So maybe we'll be doing more of these kinds of, engagement when we move forward with the community to figure out why people are doing the things that they are.
Great idea. Makes real sense. All right, board members and town committees. I did have a design review board meeting this morning. Couple of signs in Bay State Commons. One down in the shopping, and the other one down in the shopping center across from CVS, which we approved all of. And also the project on Fisher Street of the small houses. They came in with some architectural drawings of how the houses might look. We had some comments and have sent them back. He will be back to see us. He's clearing. He's a long way from building at this particular time because he hasn't even cleared the site yet. But anyway, he wanted to, have some idea about our feelings on this so that when he goes to apply for a building permit, we'll have signed off on it as far as design review goes. So it was good to see him. He
What's his
seems
timeline
organized.
look like?
I didn't get one out of him.
How long does he have, Jenny?
He has 3 years to apply for the building permit or to start. I can't remember how the decision's worded. It's either 3 years to apply for a building permit or to start
Building, I think
substantial
is what
work.
it-
And
yeah.
he applied to conservation and has been working with engineering on clearing the land
That's
in
the major,
preparation.
yeah.
So he's started in a way. He's just a little while out from actually starting construction.
And that was like a year ago, wasn't that?
That he was for us?
I can't even
Yeah,
remember.
it
Might
less
be
than a
almost
year.
2 years now.
Was it 2 years?
Yeah,
That wasn't 2 years ago, was it
Oh, no,
really?
it wasn't 2 years.
almost, maybe. I'll have to look back, but I think it
I
was,
feel like it was last year.
it might have been a year
I
and a
think it was
half.
last year.
And he's also been working on the affordability component.
Right.
Because he has to apply to EOHLC, and so he's been working on that.
I mean, he's been really making an effort to do what he's supposed to do, particularly as far as the affordable housing goes. I mean, he seems very organized and really wants to get his ducks in a row before he proceeds. And I would assume when they have come to an agreement with engineering here and wetlands or conservation, whichever he has to, he'll be able to start clearing, because I'm sure he's ready to do it whenever. And he obviously couldn't do it over the winter, so
Yeah.
this, he's getting into clearing time.
The
I just
special,
didn't know if he was up against the deadline.
No,
yeah, the special permit was November of '23. So,
so about 14 months, no, 18 months. Yeah, okay. And any other meetings that people attended that have information on?
Yes, I have. So for the Community Preservation Committee, we're just about done finalizing the details of the plan. We expect that to be finalized beginning of May, with the hope then of starting to receive requests this summer with a deadline ahead of the fall town meeting,
Great.
which will be exciting, yes. Other than that, master plan.
Now, what happened on the master plan?
So we haven't met yet. So we're meeting either the 28th or the 5th.
Okay.
To be fair, those were the two options that were given to the, those were the two options that were given to the committee. So yes,
All right, so if it's the 28th, the 5th is just before our meeting in May,
yes,
so we'll hopefully have a report by that
Yes.
meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
will do.
that'd be great. All right, we have minutes from April 1st.
Don't.
We don't have.
We'll do that at the next meeting.
Okay, we'll pass on that. Upcoming dates are May 6th, the 20th, and 6/3. Is there anything else anyone would like to bring before the board this evening? If not, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you very much.
thank you.